Okay, I'm starting to feel like a failure because the last videos now really stunk for sound quality. So I'm hoping this one picks up better. Uh, if not, I'm going to have to ask for some help. So today we're going to start talking about, we got uh, simple lesson on proportions. So proportions are simply an equality that relates to ratios or rates. So for instance, let's start with an even easier one. We could say a proportion 2/3 equals 4 to 6. 2 to 3 is equal to 4 to 6. So some neat things about proportions is one of the things is that if you flip them, 3 over 2, if you flip both of them, they're equivalent. Okay, that's one neat thing. Another neat thing, if you take the numerators to 4 compared to the denominators, that also makes an equivalent fraction. Okay, so now one other thing that's really neat is that if we talk about cross products right here, if we multiply those two things, 2 times 6 is 12, 3 times 4 is 12. So the cross products are equal. Uh, so that little fact is going to be very helpful to us when we start solving proportions. So what does it mean to solve a proportion? Uh, one other thing before I get started on solving. You may hear the idea of extremes. Extremes, that's a horrible right job. Let me try that again. Extremes and means. Okay, this idea comes from writing a ratio as 2 to 3 equals 4 to 6. So if I write it that way, it's easy to see that my extremes are the 2 and the 6. The means, which is kind of looking at the middle, are the 3 and the 4. So the product of the extremes is equal to the product of the means, as something you may hear it referred to as. So what we're going to be looking at solving proportions like this. So how we're going to do this, we're going to use cross products. So some of you I've heard say in class cross multiply. Here's where we're going to start using the idea of the cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we could write the equation 9 times x is equal to 3 times 4. So we in essence get 9x is equal to 12, and then to solve that we simply divide by 9. So x would be equal to 12 over 9, which simplifies to 4 over a 3. Nope, I lied to you. It does not simplify to 4 over 3. Yes, it does. If you divide them both by 3, you get 4 over 3. I don't have you guys double check my work when I'm up here by myself. Okay, so if I gave you another one, so for instance, 8 over 5 equals 10 over n. If we wanted to figure this one out, we would again cross multiply. So we cross multiply here, and you'd get 8n equals 50. If you divide by the 8, you'd have n is equal to 50 over 8, which is 25 over 4. Some of you would say 6 and a fourth, 6.25. Either way is fine. Okay, now I'm going to give you one a little more difficult. So if I had 6 over x plus 2 equals 8 over 10. Okay. Now the idea is the same, except we have to remember some of the other things that we worked with equations. So if I were going to write this one, I would have 6 times 10 equals x plus 2, that whole thing, that whole quantity, times an 8. So in order to solve this equation, we first multiply here. That's simple. We get a 60. Here we have to distribute, and we would get 8x plus a 16. From here, the solving of it is the same way we've solved equations before. So I'd minus 16, and I would end up with 44 is equal to 8x. So I would divide by 8 on both sides, and x would be equal to, anyone? Anyone? Nobody wants to volunteer today. So we would get 5.5. Some of you may say that's just 22 over a. Nope, that would be 11 over 2 if I simplified it all the way down. So either one would be fine with me. Okay, last one. I want you to give you a shot to solve one. Maybe you would see one like this. 3 over 3b plus 4 equals 2 over b minus 4. So pause the video, go ahead and see if you can solve that one, and then start it back up and see how I do it. You should have paused it already. If you're waiting for me, you're going to wait a long time. Okay, so here's how we do it. We cross multiply. So we cross multiply here, and I'd have 3 times the b minus 4 equals, the cross product here would be a 2 times the 3b plus 4. So if I distribute on both sides, we get 3b minus 12 equals 6b plus 8. So if I continue to solve, I would minus the 3b possibly, and you'd get a negative 12 equals 3b plus 8. And then we would minus the 8, and I would get a negative 20 is equal to the 3b. And then we divide by the 3, and it looks to me like you should get a negative 7 and 1/3. But if you do the math, you would see that Mr. Lardy screwed up once again. And if you take 20, negative 20 over 3, actually simplifies to a negative 6 and 2/3. Once again, you guys aren't here to double check my work. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. We'll take some time tomorrow to answer some questions, but we'll also be working on some in class. So at this time, you can stop the video and go ahead and have a good night.